Yeah.
There have been times where I was 1,000% sure I was right, and I held my tongue, and I went along with the program, bro, only to find out I was 1,000,000% wrong, bro. And I was so glad
that you didn't blow it up.
Didn't say shit. You know?
Yeah. So yeah. What piece of information or what pieces of information did these other people have that you didn't have that made them do what they did? Or did they have the same information that you had but interpreted it differently because they knew what they were looking for? Could you specify that? And again, I'm sorry for everybody in the chat. Look, the reason why I want to talk through this is because you can apply what we're saying now to your own job or your own profession. So this is the way you would break down problems, like the way Wrench breaks down problems in his job is the same way you can break down jobs and problems on your own. And this is why I think this is valuable. So thank you for muscling through this with me, Wrench. So
absolutely. Yeah. What I didn't know and where I was completely wrong at is breakdowns are expected to happen, right?
Yeah.
As someone who was fresh out of being a technician at the time, I want to fix everything. I want to fix everything so that we can run, we can get our numbers, all is well in the world. What I didn't know is if you go through and you buy every single part for every single piece of equipment on that production line, that the cost, that maintenance cost blows the budget every single month. And part of landing that budget at the end of the year is tied to your annual bonuses.
Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's okay. It's okay. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Yeah. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger. I'm a threat. I'm a gamble with your life, cause you know that it's a bet. It's a bet. You know I ain't letting up, my foot is on your neck. Yeah. Take my word for it, it's a promise and a threat. I ain't never really wanna flex my gifts, but I think it's my time. Let me check my wrist. You can never dim my shine. I'ma keep on grinding till I reach the tip top.
Yeah, we're guys. I hate to say it, and welcome, Wrench Turner, the best baldy, deepest voice, strongest beard on YouTube. What's up, bro? How you doing?
Father God, I come before you today, head bowed and body bent.
What's going on, brothers? How y'all doing, man? Salute to the good brothers on the panel. Salute to all the brothers in the chat, man.
Man, you just got way too much soul for this place. God damn it. That's what's up. It's got so much soulful just now.
Hey man, I gotta come in with the with a little bit of church, you know what I mean?
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Not church, with some chats. You know what I'm saying? Which means I might be cussing and I'm probably sipping on something too. So
that's what's up. That's what's up. Hey man, look, I gotta say, look, and again, thank you for being up here, and salute to everybody in the chat. Gentlemen, slowly but surely growing. You know, we're making some progress. We're making some moves. We're having some people, some of the heavy hitters are peeking in, taking a look, listening to what we're talking about. They're paying attention to us. So I want to say thank you for everybody in the chat. All the OGs, all my brothers, man. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. And these gentlemen here on the panel, my brothers we wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And, it's y'all, like, it's you guys, like this is where people come and actually watch us and watch and listen to have us have conversations. So I want to go on ahead and put that out there and say, thank you. Wrench, talking about business.
Yes, indeed.
Right. And, we've heard it in the movies, well, we've heard it, some of us have heard it directly and indirectly, hey man, it's just business, it's just business. A lot of times us melanated folk end up always being on the ass end of that statement. Right. As I'm getting my feet wet in this space and doing my own research, I like to figure out where people go wrong. Right? Lapeef fell apart recently, right? Joe Budden podcast has been busted up 2-3 times, if you count what he did with the DJ Academics. What was it? I Am Athlete and the Pivot podcast, they busted themselves up. So, you know, those are all, I mean, kind of black on black, but then you look at all the situations where black folks kind of got left holding the bag. Don Lemon, who else? What other blackity black got replaced? You know, got their card pulled recently. Chat, you can help me out.
Shit, let me see, Don Lemon, to a certain extent, Shannon Sharp kind of, with Skip Bayless.
Yeah.
I know his situation is a little bit different, but Skip did kind of, you know, start using ad hominems when, you know, when they were having that exchange back and forth. So you got a couple of different examples.
Yeah. Y'all know Jason Whitlock used to be a sports commentator.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So, you know, again, even in my own personal experience, I have had situations where, you know, I was fine. I was great as long as I was making money for the company and I was just shut up and dribble. But the second I was like, hey, it's time for my raise, or it's time for me to get ownership, or it's time for, you know, me to have some sort of a say into what's going on, suddenly I became hard to work with, you know, difficult, and or I get the cold shoulder. And if I had the leverage, they couldn't get rid of me, then I basically got the cold shoulder until I would either leave myself or, you know, I didn't have any leverage anymore. So I know more. Knowing what I know now, I think I would have spent a lot less time trying to make excuses as to why I should partner up with some of these non-melanated people instead of creating a space for myself with melanated people. What are your thoughts on that, Wrench?
Yeah, bro. I know I can tell you from experience, especially being in salary negotiations on my own behalf and then kind of coaching brothers before they would go into salary negotiations. A few things I've always done, is, number one, I made sure I always had the data. I knew I could quantify what I was actually bringing to the company. I could actually drill it down to a dollar amount and compare it versus just say the previous year, previous quarter, whatever the case may be. So I went in with a lot of data, a lot of information, so that I didn't have to be emotional. It was like, hey, I'm just looking at the numbers. I agree on the numbers. You're looking at the numbers. It's not a situation where I'm looking at it from one side and I see 6. You looking at it from the other side and you see 9. I'm just saying, hey, I'm quantifying all of this, right? Yeah. And I always made sure that I kept my emotions in check, even at times when I was completely livid. Now, what I will tell you is, and I think I've mentioned it a while back, I negotiated an extra $50,000 for myself to move out here to Kentucky. And that was, I literally had it 11/17. I pulled all of the data and I pulled it over the course of 3 years to show how much value I added to the company. What I ran into, I actually had to fire a brother today, man, but what I've run into when we talk about working together, and it's one of the reasons why I do like that high value concept that Kevin came up with, is because you can put, dollars are very quantifiable. You know what I'm saying? So if you've gone out in this world and you've worked hard and you've mastered something, or you've, you know, spent your 10,000 hours, right? Yeah. It says clearly that it's not necessarily saying that we're going to be on the same page 100% of the time. We might not agree with everything 100% of the time. Hey, we may bump heads sometime, but I know that in your own right, you're still a dog. I mean, you still have the general concept of how to go out here and hunt. What most companies do to kind of at least put up a smokescreen as it relates to race and stuff like that, you typically have a core set of values that a company uses, right? And anybody who deviates outside of those core set of values, a lot of times they either let go, ostracize, so on and so forth. What I think for us as it relates to being business owners and networking with each other is doing the same thing. You have a core set of values, right? Maybe it's 10, maybe it's 5 with subtitles, but you have a core set of values and you say, hey, this is the way we operate. If you want to be a part of this, we would love to have you. If you deviate outside of this, then there are ramifications and repercussions for doing that. And the way that the conversations about relationships play into what it is that we're talking about now is sometimes you have to be able to swallow that you have to be able to swallow that emotion, and you have to be tough, and you have to sit across the table from somebody that you vehemently disagree with in order to progress the movement or in order to benefit everybody who's sitting at the table. It can't be a situation where you pull a Jocelyn Hernandez and Amber Rose and y'all fighting and stuff. You know what I mean? That is the biggest difference I've seen when I've heard screaming matches with guys at the corporate level. I've heard screaming matches with the door closed. They come out, and an hour and a half later, we're in a meeting with more people who didn't witness the screaming match, and they'd never be able to tell. You know what I'm saying? So those are things that I've learned working for a Fortune 500, being a fly on the wall, being able to soak up all of this game. And when I realized that, I was like, my God, we're so far behind, because if that was anybody else, these dudes would have been fighting already. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah. I know that was kind of long-winded, but
no. You touched on something again. It's like getting past some things for the greater good, right? Like you can't die on every hill.
Right.
You know, you can't die on every hill. You know,
it's okay to stand on it and fight, and people will respect you for it. But you get so much more respect when you're able to bridle and curb your emotions, because everybody is pretty. I mean, it can be pretty apparent as far as what you feel. But to be able to reel it in and benefit the greater good, man, you get so much more respect for being able to do that. And I think that's one of the areas where, as brothers, a lot of us can get better at. Not saying you brothers on the panel, but a lot of brothers just in general out in the public. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what, Wrench? I think that's probably. I mean, I don't want to say it is, but I think that's part of that's our biggest kryptonite right there. It's like that's a virtue that you really learn from the masculine side of your father, is just like how to, you know, keep your emotions in check and actually sometimes just conform, because if you conform, there's an outcome that's bigger than the way that you could ever dream to have. So it's just like we just never got that information. That was just like, okay, what's the end goal here?
Right.
You may think that your way is the best way, and you may be confident in it, but just for this ride, go ahead and keep that energy in check and just roll with the punches right now with what he's doing.
Yeah. There have been times where I was 1,000% sure I was right, and I held my tongue, and I went along with the program, bro, only to find out I was 1,000,000% wrong, bro. And I was so glad
that you didn't blow it up.
I didn't say shit. You know
yeah. All right. You know what? I'm so glad I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. So you're telling me taking a second look, and that is and shout out to Hootie, the definition of respect. But like, so you taking a second look and being like, I need to play this thing out, ended up becoming a win, and in the end of the day.
Hell yeah, in the best way possible. Like that skill of being able to, and like I said, the first few times it was extremely uncomfortable. I was visibly uncomfortable, arms crossed tight to the chest, you know what I mean? Just kind of listening to the conversation, but I was hot.
Yeah.
Man, being able to hold my tongue and eventually get on board and just contribute as much as possible, even when I didn't believe that we were being led in the right direction. Yeah. Once we got there and my work spoke for itself, that is what pushed me over that $100,000 mark. Being able to shut up and perform. You know what I mean? And hindsight being 2020, they were a million gazillion % right, and I was completely wrong. Even though emotionally and mentally, based on what I knew at the time, I thought that I was right. I would have probably died on that hill if I had not had the type of relationship that I had with these people who were beyond smarter than I was at the time.
Was it okay? Did they just have more inside information, so they knew? Did they understand a market a little bit better? Can you give me just because the reason why I want to suss this out, because again, I think a lot of times these conversations, there's a missing piece, and I want to highlight the missing piece. So what piece of information, or what pieces of information did these other people have that you didn't have, that made them do what they did? Or did they have the same information that you had, but interpreted it differently because they knew what they were looking for? Could you specify that?
Yeah. So for me, I was a part of a Kaizen event and we were looking at this piece of equipment, and we were saying, you know, we called out all of the top downtime occurrences, right? So just say for bottling equipment, just say if we're looking at a filler, we can have an issue with low filling valves. We can have an issue with conveyor timing. We can have an issue with raw materials. We can have a lot of different variables, right? Because you're running that fast and you got a lot of things happening at once. You can have an issue with programming.
Okay. Hold on. I hate to cut you off, but I want to make sure that you don't lose everybody. Because I think I know what you're talking about. But if I'm struggling, I have a feeling that there's some people that are like, what the hell is he talking about? So we're talking about manufacturing, yeah? Yeah,
manufacturing. And industrial maintenance side of manufacturing.
Okay. All right. So industrial maintenance side of manufacturing. So conveyor belts, pulleys, arms, big machines, robots, things, conveyor belts, getting a unfinished product to a product that pops out the other door, everything that makes that machine go in between, all the ball bearings and the arms and the levers and whatever. Okay, got you. So what you're talking about is you went to a what now?
It's a focused improvement initiative.
Okay, focused improvement initiative. Now, what exactly is that? And again, I'm sorry for everybody in the chat. Look, the reason why I want to talk through this is because you can apply what we're saying now to your own job or your own profession. So this is the way you would break down problems, like the way Wrench breaks down problems in his job is the same way you can break down jobs and problems on your own. And this is why I think this is valuable. So thank you for muscling through this with me, Wrench. So
absolutely.
So is this are you doing this thing in your own shop?
No, this is actually for my W-2 job.
Okay. All right. Okay, so they're paying you to give an assessment.
Correct. I'm a subject matter expert on the maintenance side because I used to be a technician.
Okay.
In this particular role, I was a maintenance planner, meaning I would use what we call a CMMS, which is a computerized maintenance system to determine when to order parts. So my part, I was the subject matter expert for repairs, preventative maintenance, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So we're saying like I was saying, like chains, ball bearings, hydraulic pumps and cylinders, things like that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Everything that you would use to take it from raw materials through a production line to finished goods on the other end. Okay.
And so your profession, and so what they wanted you to do is say, okay, this particular thing is going to is likely to break in 6 months. This thing over here has got a life of 12 months. This thing over here, blah, blah, blah. And your responsibility is to put together a maintenance schedule to either take care of or replace some of these items to keep the supply chain going. Am I right?
Yep. Determine the, what we call MTBF, mean time between failure. So exactly what you said. How long will this part run until it dies out? What is the life cycle of it? And how do we set up our PMs to repair it before that life cycle expires?
Okay, dope. Okay, so what information did they have, or where was the rub? And I'm sorry, I know this was a little bit of a tangent, sort of, but I wanted to talk business today. I wanted to get into the nuts and the bolts and business relationships. But this is a particular, like, this is some good stuff in my honest opinion. Your assessment, and you had an idea as to what was supposed to happen, and then the people that were paying you, your bosses, they had a different opinion.
Yeah. So it was a combination of the two. It was a combination of the folks who signed my check, and then what we call a rapid continuous improvement. So like the people who actually throw the focused improvement events, they don't know dick about the machine. That was another thing. They don't know dick about the machines. I'm the expert, right? They are just looking at the data saying, hey, we need to focus here. right? You know, and you guys will know what I'm talking about, and I'll explain a little bit for the chat. But when you talk about what's in scope, so just say if you got 40 different machines that do a lot of different things, one of them is really problematic, but it only breaks down every other week. You have one that nickel and dimes you every day. So they are looking at the data saying, hey, we need to focus here. I'm like, hey, as somebody who understands the line and somebody who understands maintenance, we've been limping along on this other machine. Yeah. What I didn't know, and where I was completely wrong at, is breakdowns are expected to happen, right?
Yeah.
As someone who was fresh out of being a technician at the time, I want to fix everything. I want to fix everything so that we can run, we can get our numbers, all is well in the world. What I didn't know is if you go through and you buy every single part for every single piece of equipment on that production line, that the cost, that maintenance cost, blows the budget every single month. And part of landing that budget at the end of the year is tied to your annual bonuses. Now I would duct tape some shit now, but back then I wanted to buy every single part.
That's the realest thing I ever heard.
Yeah. You see what I mean?
That's the realest thing I ever heard.
So imagine sitting in a room full of people who are all going to the left, and you sitting there with your arms crossed wanting to go to the right, because at this time I didn't get, I wasn't getting a budget. I was making a pretty good hourly rate, but I wasn't getting a budget. I was like, man, this is, in my head, I'm like, this is bullshit. And I'm looking at everybody. I'm like, y'all don't even work on the floor. Y'all come in from corporate with y'all shit. And, it got to a point where I had to manage those budgets. And I was like, they were like, hey, we need to buy a brand new. No, we don't. Let's call a machine shop. Let's call a machine shop. We got a fabrication shop close by,
Hey, rub some tussin on it. It'll get
better. Yeah, man. You put a little duct tape and annihilate a wrapper and shit. Keep running.
Yeah, keep it going.
Yeah.
No, that is a great lesson. That's a great lesson. And it was just a matter of you needed to have a little bit more experience
right.
in the financials end of it, the financial side of it before right. you and luckily you got to learn on someone else's dime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like you didn't like run your own business into the ground, trying to do something that would have eventually wounded you. That's an interesting. I'm glad. Thank you for muscling through that with me. And hopefully anybody that heard that, like that was, those are I swear those are some of the details I think that oftentimes they get left out. And it's like when you're hearing someone talk about, he's like, what happened? Like, what exactly was the rub? Like, what did you have a problem with? What did they have more information? Were they more experienced? Did they get lucky? Did you all have the same information? Did they read it differently? Right. Are all things that I'm curious about. Well, real quick, salute to T-Sam, salute to the chat and panel, man. Thank you so much, bro. Appreciate you. Real talk. We're gonna, this is already way more productive than I expected it to be. So salute to everybody, man. Thank you so much, T-Sam. Gerald, can we give T-Sam a salute, please? Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, T-Sam. You the man. And salute to everybody. Who was it? Sharon was laughing at us because he said now and later rapper. Hey man, when you it's like when you have that production line, you got to keep that bad boy moving, man. You can't. There's the time down is get
them third party repair agencies, and they just like they looking at it like put some oil on it, maybe it'll run.
Yeah.
That's what my factory does.
Or you start to get a lot better at preventative health care, right? Or preventative care, right? So hey, these bearings wear out early or often because of imbalances over here. Maybe if we balance it, we go through less bearings, stuff like that. I think all guys, by the way, all of you guys, if you don't, you should start to try to get a better understanding of machines and how they work. I think that, it's just good for us to be able to think in those kind of